And it shows kind of the life of friends, how friends interact. And Abraham, though he is just a humble servant, and the Lord Almighty have this marvelous, heart-stirring, love-engendering discourse between friends in this chapter. Contrary to the action-packed drama of the previous chapters, this chapter is intimate, even though it's awesome and terrifying. It's an extended discourse between conversation partners. All 21 verses of chapter 15 are a back and forth. The Lord starts the conversation in verse 1, then Abraham responds in verses 2 and 3, then the Lord responds in verses 4 and 5, then Abraham responds in verse 6, then the Lord in verse 7, then Abraham in verse 8, and then the Lord finishes in verses 9 to 21. It's an amazing chapter of this beautiful back and forth, showing Abraham's close relationship with God himself. God has offered himself to Abraham. I am thine exceedingly great reward. Me, not my things. Me, myself. I'm not suggesting that this was some sort of, fake friendship. All of us have experienced witnessing or hearing about people who claim to be so close to God, buddy with God. That is not what's going on here at all. Abraham, in fact, the text says Abraham falls on his face. So this conversation is going between God and Abraham, with Abraham prostrate. Okay, so there is deep reverence. You're interacting with the holy God. But there is intimate back and forth dialogue, magnificent, intimate back and forth dialogue. Friends, yes, friends. Let me share some of this with you. The Holy Patriarch is called by the chronicler, by the author of 1st and 2nd Chronicles, in the scriptures. He's called God's forever friend. This is the quote. Art not thou our God, who didst drive out the inhabitants of this land before thy people Israel, and gavest it to the seed of Abraham, thy friend forever? 2 Chronicles 27. What a text. God's forever friend. That was part of King Jehoshaphat's prayer. And then the prophet Isaiah also asserts this outrageously beautiful reality of God and Abraham being friends. This is in chapter 41, verse 8 of Isaiah's prophecy. But thou, Israel, art my servant, Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. Here's God directly calling Abraham his friend. And in the New Testament, there's also such a reference from the epistle of the Holy Apostle James, the brother of God, the first hierarch of Jerusalem. In his text, he says, seest thou how faith wrought with works, and by works was faith made perfect? And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God.